Welcome again to the Everyday Preparedness Podcast, helping you prepare for life's everyday obstacles. You can find us at everydaypreparedness.net. Send us an email, edpreparedness@gmail.com. We're on Twitter, like most people are, at edprepare, and facebook.com/edprepare. We're also on YouTube. We don't have a link for that. Just search it. So today's episode, we're going to kind of go off in all kinds of different directions. Britt got a hold of me and said, we need to talk a little bit about politics. And about the time he said that, I was actually thinking the same thing because I just saw so much stuff on Facebook about all different types of politics going on at the time. So, Brent, I'll let you take the floor and start us off.
Oh, you mean you don't want to get into all the presidential people?
Oh, we will. Yeah.
President?
I've got it written down. That's part of it. Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's good. It's exciting. Isn't this a great time of year that you get to listen to all the windbags?
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you want to actually talk about first? I guess we ought to stick with some local stuff, don't you think?
Yep. We'll start with what I'm calling the no repeal vote. I actually have some stories about this, but Brent, I'll let you explain too. If you're not living in Springfield, Missouri, you may not know what this is. So, Brent, I'll let you explain a little bit more in detail because I'll just admit that you know more about it than I do.
That's just because I'm a political junkie and you know important things.
Yeah.
Basically, all it is, you've probably heard it. I mean, it made national headlines, actually. I think I found something even like the LA Times when I was researching it.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it was actually quite ridiculous. I mean, I think even George Takei was talking about the preacher from James River that was real outspoken, you know, in favor of repealing the bill. Basically, it actually got known as like the bathroom ordinance, which is a gross oversimplification of actually what was going on with it. In general, all it did was add sexual orientation and gender identity to the list of non-discrimination. Like, you know, you can't discriminate because they're African American or, you know, because they're a woman or, you know, what have you. And at its heart, that was what it was geared at. The most controversial part, at least publicly controversial, that was mentioned all the time, was it would basically allow a guy who believed himself to be a woman, a transgender, to go use the bathroom. Like, you know, if it's a guy, you know, who feels as though he was actually or is actually a girl or a female, however you want to say it, could use the women's restroom and nobody could say anything about it without it being discriminatory. Like I said, everything got focused on that, and that seems to me just, I don't know, it was weird that was where everything kind of turned out to be, because there's supposedly like religious exemptions and everything. Honestly, from what I've seen, the religious exemptions are kind of generic, and I think that's where a lot of people actually had a problem. It got repealed. Originally, it was passed by the Springfield City Council. And then they got, like, enough people got petitions and everything, and then the council passed on it, so which means it got put up for a vote. And it was actually a very close vote. I mean, it was only it was just like under 1,000 or 2,000, wasn't it?
I don't remember. I didn't look that close at the numbers. I was just looking at I was actually more blown away with the feedback, and we'll get to that later.
Yeah, the feedback's been kind of but basically, it was 51 to 49%, I think. And I mean, it was a barely like 51. They're actually planning on doing a lot of stuff to try to get it put back on the ballot, maybe with a little different language, I think. I don't know. I don't know that it'll help it. I know one of the local talk shows here mentioned that one of the big problems that, you know, he saw with it was just very simply the bathroom ordinance. But like I said, for that to be the focus is weird, because basically you could go use the bathroom anyway, anywhere you want. And at least as far as I've been able to read, you know, if I wanted to go use the women's restroom, I could. You know, I mean, they may all run out and call me a pervert, but, you know, as long as I'm not actually, you know, doing anything, well, let's just call it pervy, other than just going in and using the bathroom. I don't know that that's technically illegal in the state of Missouri. Maybe it is. I don't know. I don't. It's just the whole thing's kind of bizarre to me. But I don't know. You want to get into kind of some of the reactions and everything on it?
One thing I think is interesting is what started as a bathroom ordinance type thing. Nobody mentions that. It's all about rights. That's what it evolved into. Things of being denied employment, being denied services, being that kind of stuff. And I'm trying to figure out where the correlation is. Like, am I stupid for not seeing it?
Honestly, and that's what I was saying. I actually read the bill today. It's 17 pages long. It's not the most enjoyable reading. You can find it with just a little bit of searching. I'll share it to the Facebook page. It's actually not, I didn't see anything really overly bizarre. The religious exemption, like I said, I could see where everybody's saying that that's really weak. But yeah, most of it's, that you can't be denied housing, based on gender identity or sexual orientation. And I honestly, it may be a bigger problem in Springfield than I'm aware of. I really don't know. I try to stay out of Springfield as much just because, it's kind of not really the nicest town in the world.
Yeah, me too.
But so, I don't know. The whole bathroom thing was literally, I think, like one line, and it's basically that it's like public accommodations, I think is how it's actually worded.
It's just amazing how something starts out like that and then spirals into something else.
Yeah, and everybody instantly, hit the fan as every pervert will go in when they see a kid walk into the other, to that bathroom and everything. And it's like, I guess, that's a possibility. I don't know that it's that big of a deal. Are you letting kids young enough, go to the bathroom by themselves as an adult? Aren't you going to be standing there anyway? I always see parents doing that. So, I don't know that it's that big of a deal. I think if that hadn't been the big push and what was made kind of, the big feature issue of the whole bill, that it honestly probably would not have been repealed. Because I don't think most people actually care.
Yeah.
Anymore, as long as you can pay the bills and I've never heard of Springfield basically refusing people service. You get the bakeries and everything that make the national news and this and that, and yeah, it happens, but I don't know. I've got my own political take on that, which we can get into later.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get into now, actually. I don't know. It's interesting that, like I said, again, the bathroom thing, I think you're right. If people were looking at it from that perspective, you wouldn't have made news with this ballot at all. But yeah, the first thing I thought of when I heard of the bakery thing and, anybody, if you're a business of any kind, that could be a construction company, it could be the pizza place, that's all over the news now. Right. It could be a car lot, it could be anything. If you are actually the owner of the business and not an individual employee, you have the right to refuse service to anybody. Back in the day, what about no shoes, no shirt, no service?
Right.
That was everywhere. So you could turn somebody away just because they didn't have a shirt on, let alone their sexual preference, religion, race, anything like that. So what's your thoughts on that, just overall?
Well, I don't live in the city limits of Springfield, so I obviously didn't get a chance to vote on that issue. I honestly would have voted to repeal it simply because I think we have too many damn laws the way it is anyway. I don't think it's a big enough issue that we need to worry about that stuff. If there's evidence of that being a major, just life-breaking, life-ruining issue, by all means, show it to me and, I'll read it, keep an open mind about it. I don't think businesses should, say, yeah, I'll serve you, but I won't serve you, because, that's just terrible business.
It is, but it's their right to do that.
Right. And you know, I mean, I know people are like, well, but their doors are open to the public, so therefore they're not technically, you know, allowed to do that. And I get that. But at the same time, I think they should have that right. Just as, you know, somebody can open up a store right next door to them and openly proclaim, hey, they refuse service to you guys, we'll give you a 15% discount.
And that's what I saw a lot of, I guess, businesses in the Springfield area putting stickers on their windows or whatever saying they'll accept anybody. And that's fine. You know, there's no issue with that at all, because everybody should be accepted everywhere. And if you want to promote it that way, that's, you know, cool.
Well, right. And sorry to interrupt. But
no, go ahead.
That is the free market working.
Right.
That is people being like, okay, well, that's awful. You know, refusing people service is awful. So I'm not going to do that, and I'm going to publicly say that everybody is welcome. That is the free market working. That is the free market basically shaming the businesses who do, you know, operate with discriminatory practices. And that's why I don't think a law is necessary. We have reached a point. I understand, you know, you're talking Jim Crow South, where, you know, you don't have very many options as an African American person to go eat. And, you know, you're being kicked out, you're being harassed, you're having all these issues and everything else. Okay. I don't necessarily agree that we needed the law the way it was done, but I completely understand why a lot of people did. And I'm not, you know, it doesn't ruin my life that the thing was passed. Neither would this one. I mean, I'm honestly not that passionate about, you know, this whole issue. I mean, I don't want to see people discriminated against.
Right.
But, you know, I mean, as far as that, you know, but we're no longer living in that type of nation. I mean, we have
people make it out to be like we are.
Right. And, you know, you see all the memes and stuff on Facebook where they're like, well, gay rights is, you know, the new civil rights and this and that. And it's like, yes and no. You know, the gay rights and everything have come a very long way. And whenever, you know, it's being compared to slavery and stuff like that in this country, I'm sorry, I always have to kind of look to, okay, well, where's your denunciation of these countries that still stone homosexuals?
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm sorry, I understand there are things about this country that need to be fixed. Most of them can be fixed by removing the government from that certain arena.
Exactly.
And it's like, let's fix it that way. But it's like, you know, let's not, you know, focus all our attention and all our, you know, hatred and volatility and this and that on, you know, a pizza shop owner who, how many times will they be called on to cater a wedding, let alone a gay wedding? I'm sorry, at my wedding, I didn't look at my wife and say, you know what, I want to cater pizza. It never even crossed my mind. You know, maybe people do. I don't know. But there's too many gotcha scenarios anymore, in my opinion, where they go in, well, how do you feel about this? And it's just, you know,
it's a bait and switch type thing.
Yeah. And even that pizza place, you know, that's in the news real big right now, the news had actually, like, whoever did the interview had actually cut out the part where they said, no, we wouldn't cater a gay wedding, but if they come into the shop, we'll sell them anything they want with a smile.
Exactly.
I mean, that's not a direct quote, mind you, but that's
right.
What they said. And, you know, it's like, okay, well, let's keep the context of everything going. You know, let's keep everything in context. Let's not sit here and find reasons to start trying to bash each other in the head. And a lot of times that's what it ends up with anymore.
Yeah, that's actually something I want to transition. Before we go into that, I'll just kind of give my take on it. Let's say I'll put this from a Christian standpoint, which I am, so I'm not going to deny that. Let's say that I go into a shop that sells, I don't know, satanic Bibles. Let's say it's an all satanic Bible store, and I want to go in there. Like, if I go in there and I'm discriminated against because I have a different thought, that's fine. I'll just go to another store, because it's probably not going to be the only store of whatever I'm wanting to look for.
Right.
And you know, you're going, you know what you're kind of getting, and you kind of have to know your areas. Does that make any sense at all? Like the communities can have different views on things. So if you think that one place is going to be discriminatory against you, just go to another one. Like, I don't feel the need to, you know, I might I might feel that way, like I just said, about businesses. There might be a business that I think should shut their doors. No, like they have the right to sell whatever they want to sell, and I have the choice to not go there. I can go somewhere else.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And that's, there again, that's the free market working. It's like, okay, well, they don't have what I want. I'm going somewhere else.
Or they don't treat you the way they want, so you go somewhere else.
Exactly. And that's, now if they're trying to force you to buy their business and then refusing to serve you, well, then you have a different problem.
Right.
But, that's not what's happening. And there again, like I said, some of, the areas of the Jim Crow South, which, just side note, Jim Crow was passed by the government, not the free market. Just, side note on that. So that was government fixing its own problems. But anywho, there were very few options for a lot of those people to go eat. Now, if you don't have a bakery within 100 miles and no one will cater and this and that, and they're refusing because you're gay and gay marriage is recognized, okay, maybe.
Right, yeah.
I understand where you're coming from, but that's not the issue anymore.
No.
And, I think there was a story came out that this gay woman had actually apologized to the pizza place. And, just because the vehemence that was about it, I mean, you had teachers going on Twitter saying, okay, who's going to meet me and burn this place down? And it's like, my God, people, is that actually where we're at as a society, that whenever
it is doesn't... And that's what I mean, I'll get it. Sorry to cut you off. I'll get into that in a minute, but to kind of go with what you said, I saw there was a lesbian couple that actually donated money to that pizzeria because they are also a small business owner.
Yep.
And they get it. They understand what the ramifications could be in a situation where if something's passed and you don't serve somebody for one of these reasons, you could lose your business. Right.
And, I think, the right to refuse is fantastic. I think it goes along with our right to associate, that's guaranteed in the Constitution, this and that and the other thing. But I wouldn't want a member of the KKK going into a black-owned bakery and demanding them to bake something with hoods on it.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want a Muslim baker to have to draw Muhammad on a cake. And, if you're going to be ideologically consistent and legalistically consistent, you would have to force them to do that, even though it violated, just common sense in some cases, or, religious ideology. And that's eventually where you have to go, because if not, you run the danger of, okay, well, you're singling out one specific religion. And, that's a different argument for a different time. But, I don't think they should have to do that. I would stand with the black baker who refused to bake a cake for the KKK.
Mm-hmm.
And, they shouldn't have to do that. And, that's where we are with a lot of that stuff. So I don't know. The whole issue it kind of drives me nuts, but then again, I'm obsessed with politics. So I, keep looking into it all. But
yeah. So after talking about all this, these were kind of all the thoughts going through my head as I found out. Like that, if it would have passed one way or another, would I have freaked out? No, I didn't either way. It passed.
Yeah.
So what? It didn't. It would have been not repealed. Oh, okay. But the problem is there's so many people, and excuse me. If you're friends with me on Facebook and I'm sorry if I offend you, don't care, but it is what it is. So many people were wanting to burn these places down. They were wanting to basically riot and do all this stuff. And I'm just like, I couldn't believe it. The lack of just common sense. And it's like you said, this is where society is.
Yeah. It's man's inhumanity towards man. And I mean, both sides are guilty of it.
Right. Exactly. We just broke down how both sides are guilty.
Oh yeah. And it's bad both ways. I don't know. Like I said, I think a little understanding, and if you want to say you're tolerant, well, you got to be tolerant to other people's opinions. And I don't know, like I said, the whole thing just it boggles my mind how almost cruel, not even almost, we are cruel to others whenever they disagree with us. And that's not right. I mean, we should be able to have conversations and disagree and not think we need to burn the other place's, the other person's, place of business or house or whatever down, or wish bodily harm to them.
or kill them, because there were
Right.
like people wanting to kill people.
Yeah, and it's like, good Lord, I don't know. It bugs the crap out of me. It really does. And it's so simple, I think, to fix. You just don't worry about it. Like you said, whether the bill is repealed or not doesn't matter to me. If I'm in the bathroom and, I'm obviously a guy, I'm going to go to the male's bathroom. If some girl walks in thinking, that really believes she's a dude, whatever. We're not in there to hold court, and it doesn't bother me one way or another. And so I don't know.
You have to pick and choose your battles on these ballots. Some people, there will be something that's very serious that could be a detriment to everybody, but it doesn't get any attention. And then there's ones that might only affect a certain part of the population, and it gets all the attention in the world. So people's tolerance on every side has to be built up to some extent. Like I said, you gotta pick and choose your battles on that. But one thing you said earlier is it's bad on both sides. I'm going to use that as a segue into our 2016 presidential candidates. Yay! You have to pick one of two. The illusion. All right. So take it from there. Because I think we're going to maybe have some disagreements here.
Well, probably. I know we did it after the last one, but to be honest with you, I felt sick for about a month after the last one. It was bad.
Not me. I went out and ate some food afterwards.
Well, number one, the fact that the Libertarian Party cannot be invited to a debate against the Democrats and the Republicans is absolutely appalling to me.
Yeah, they had to have their own with like the Green Party in a local bingo hall.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. The last presidential election, you put Gary Johnson in a room with those people, and ideologically, he would have wiped the floor with every one of them.
Yep.
And I mean, on pretty much every issue that's, big and key, or, that they always, the media always tells you is important, the guy, of course, I think it's because they're scared of him. I mean, the Republicans and the Democrats are basically the same party.
They are the same party.
I was going to say that, it used to be which one traveled a little bit slower on certain issues, but hell, even anymore.
No, they just go different routes of doing it.
Exactly. They're going to do the same thing. And I mean, it's like, you even I know a lot of libertarians that voted for Obama his first term because he was going to close Gitmo, he was going to end the war, he was going to bring the soldiers home, he was going to end the Patriot Act, all this and that. Well, thanks to, Mr. Snowden, we now know that, well, all of that got kicked into high gear.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like he basically continued every single thing Bush did. And everybody argues about, the Health Care Act. And it's like, okay, personal feelings about the Health Care Act aside, I'm actually more concerned about the NSA.
Right.
And, so I don't know. It drives me nuts too, because all you hear is a bunch of campaign ads. Not a single one of them means crap. Because look at the one with John McCain. I mean, dear God, is that the best that we can honestly offer, the country, as a person like John McCain?
So one thing I want to kind of get away from the actual, I guess the characters. I'll call them characters. I kind of want to get away from that and focus on the general, going back to society, the general outlook on some things. And we'll go back to talking about Gary Johnson. Did you actually watch the debate that he did with all the other third-party candidates?
No, I didn't actually get a chance to see it.
I actually watched it live because it was online, and it was recorded, so it was archived. And I took that link, and I showed it with a bunch of people I know from all different walks of life, Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, people who don't even vote, people who don't know anything about anything. And they were completely blown away with Gary Johnson's issue, like his politics. And then there were several of them that I talked to. I'm like, oh, so did you vote for Gary Johnson? No, I voted for Romney. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, but you just told me you were completely sold on Gary Johnson, and maybe that goes into something like you said earlier about being scared about um, doing what you feel to do instead of doing what society tells you to do. Do you think?
Somewhat, yeah. Honestly, I do. But the other side of it is, and I'm guilty of this. I'll openly admit it. Uh, you get kind of caught up in, okay, well, the libertarian guy, there's no chance he's going to win. This is, the inner monologue that, that everybody's going to have whenever they come across somebody from the libertarian or green party or something like that.
Mm-hmm, right.
And they're like, okay, well, they have no absolute chance of winning. So let's look at who does. Well, okay, well, there's these two people, or your two characters anyway.
That's what they are.
Yeah, it is.
They're puppets on a string.
Yep. And so it's like, okay, which one of these is less distasteful to vote for? And that's what I say everybody, not everybody. That's what the majority of people do. They sit there and say, okay, well, who is least worst? And then, they punch the button or whatever it is, however they vote for that person. And instead of going in and actually voting their conscience and all that, but some of that's honestly conditioned. And I mean, I don't mean like, Secret Room 101, 1984 type conditioned, but it's all conditioned by the media because like we talked earlier, Gary Johnson was never invited to a single debate with the other two candidates. And that alone, most people, if they're not on, they'll watch maybe the 5 o'clock news or something. And Gary Johnson was probably mentioned in one broadcast from the time he said he was running until after the election. They're like, oh yeah, and by the way,
if that
5%. And that was the one broadcast was how bad he lost by. And people just get kind of conditioned to where some of them don't even realize people are running. And I think that's part of it. So I mean, you've got the lesser of two evils, which is what everybody always votes for. And I will predict it now. Every single candidate in the race, except for probably whoever the libertarians run, possibly Rand Paul, and I figure we'll disagree on that. I'm curious what kind of candidacy he'll actually run, like kind of platform he'll actually run on. But everybody else will be, you need to vote for me because I wasn't the previous guy, and I'm not that guy. That is the entire gist of their entire platform. Instead of being
but
like,
they will be.
Well, right. And, they will be, like you said. And, it was just like Bush was basically Clinton. Actually, he was worse than Clinton. I'm not even going to go there. He was actually quite a bit worse than Clinton. He was supposed to be the small government guy. And, that's originally what he ran on was limited government, freer economy, this, that, and the other. And, we don't want to be Bill Clinton again. And, so he got in, however you feel about that election. And then he was worse. And then Obama was, well, hey, everything's Bush's fault. I'm going to turn around and fix it. Well, he's been worse. And Romney would have been the same. You actually look at what they wanted, there's no difference. They argued about stuff, but at the end of the day, they would have done the exact same crap.
I think Romney might have been a little bit more of a warmonger. Am I right?
I honestly don't know that you could be more of a warmonger than Obama's been.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I hate to say it, he was the one that criticized Bush for all that and the War Powers Act and this and that, and he's the one who's abused them. And, he's gone after whistleblowers, the Espionage Act more than any other of the presidents combined. He did what he could to overthrow Libya, set up the, Arab Spring in all those countries and everything. And, yeah, okay, Bush went into Iraq. Shouldn't have done it. Bad, terrible, awful thing. I get it. But Obama went in as, armed rebels in Syria fighting against the Syrian government, helped overthrow Libya. And, there's a few dozen other things that he's done. And, he's killed American citizens without due process with a drone. He's kept a damn kill list that he keeps secret. And, none of this stuff's even argued about. It's just, well, he's not Bush. Well, dear God.
Yeah, people are still going on about that, and I don't understand.
Yeah, it's like, George Bush is the only one that doesn't care anymore. I mean, I don't know. Obama's done almost every single thing that Bush did, but he gets away with it because he's a Democrat. And, it's like, okay, well, he's the exact same. Romney, I think would have probably, I mean, it's hard to, guess and stuff. It's all just speculation and kind of pointless, but, I don't think we would have necessarily been in the Arab world the way that we have been with Obama. I think it would have been more in like probably Russia and stuff like that, because I mean, he was, during the campaign and everything, he talked about Russia and this and that. So, I don't know, but I heard a quote like a long time ago. I think it was actually, I want to say it was Neil Boortz is where I heard it was on his show. Somebody had told him, I mean, it was, just kind of an anecdote, but basically that it doesn't matter who is sitting in the White House. Once they're there, they realize they have no choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you could take that a couple different ways. Like you said, they're puppets. And I think largely that's exactly what they are. They use a personality, they use a cult of personality to get somebody elected. But, you can look either the way world events unfold, whether it's through, intelligence gathering or, some sort of shadow government or whatever, not to try to get, real paranoid about stuff. Maybe that's absolutely true. Because, I mean, you look, hell, even Ronald Reagan wasn't exactly Ronald Reagan. And, you hear Republicans, oh, it got to be Ronald Reagan. Well, good Lord, look at what Reagan actually did.
That's exactly what I was getting ready to say.
And it's like, he made fantastic speeches and said, great things, fantastic sound bites. They sound wonderful. But a lot of times what he actually did was completely different to what he said.
Just like all the other presidents.
Right. And, I'm not trying to beat up on the last few, especially Obama. I haven't liked any president, honestly, since Calvin Coolidge, who sadly I wasn't there for. I mean, there are some problems because, I think he actually started some of the taxes and everything we have now.
Well, and doing nothing, while it could be decent at times, sometimes you do have to do something. I mean, I know what you mean, though. So you touched on several things that I want to get some more thoughts on and your opinions on, and hopefully we'll disagree some. I don't know that we will, but hopefully. One thing I'll just say is the lesser of the two evils. You said that earlier. And I don't, around here we got a lot of hillbillies, and I don't know how many times I heard, you got to pick the lesser of the two evils. And my response to them, I did this every time. My response would be like, well, really, because I don't like to vote for evil, period. Right. And it would leave them speechless. Yep. And then they'd say, well, you can't vote for that dang Muslim. Or they would say, it's your right as an American to vote. And I'm just like, well, I just said I don't like to vote for two evils. That doesn't mean I'm not voting. But let's jump into that then. Voting, does it matter? And what do you, and does it have to do with the lesser of the two evils? Like, you see a correlation between the two?
I hate to say that voting doesn't matter. I think, especially local elections, take just, the repeal vote that happened here. I mean, it was, I want to say it was actually like around 1,000 votes difference. And in a town the size of Springfield, that's tiny.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I should have rephrased that, because I do believe that local, small local things, they do matter, and there's too many situations where it's a fact that voting works.
But at the same time, let's take our own personal, representative, I guess you could call him that, Billy Long, and he ran on, well, I don't want this. I'll fight against that. I'll do this. I'll do that. Small government, free markets, more money, less taxes, yada, yada, yada. And everybody, down here bought it hook, line, and sinker, it seemed. And he gets up there. He votes for the NDAA. He votes for CISPA. I think he even voted well, the one thing he actually came out against that I liked, but he was so muddle-mouthed about it that it kind of pissed me off, was the net neutrality thing. But he hasn't done anything except get paid.
And get fatter.
Yeah. Oh God. And that bothers me. And there's at times like that I really sit back and I say, okay, the libertarian guy, I was actually going to try to volunteer for him. His Facebook page it had been updated that he had announced his candidacy for the Libertarian Party for the House of Representatives against Billy Long. Other than that, it hadn't been updated for like a year.
Because I'm pretty sure it got shut down without anybody knowing. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah. And I'm like, okay, so I would volunteer and help you because I can't stand Billy Long. I mean, I voted against him every single time he's ran. And I will continue to do so just out of spite, if nothing else. It's like, okay, well, where can I go vote? Or who can I, not where can I go vote? It's who can I go, volunteer for? Who can I help try to get, elected besides this guy? And nobody cared. And it's like, is this honestly our options? And, look at the whole Todd Aiken thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, dude, you stepped in a major pile of horse shit. Are you so narcissistic and arrogant that you think you're still going to win? And so it's times like that I honestly feel like voting just doesn't matter worth a crap. Because, Billy Long's going to be Billy Long, and he's going to win just because he's a Republican guy. So it's like, well, whatever. But at the same time, I see races like one of my personal favorite reps is Justin Amash out of Michigan. And are you familiar with him at all?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The dude is absolutely amazing. I do not agree with him on everything, but he has not missed a vote since he was first elected, period. And he has posted his explanation for why he voted for what he did every single vote on Facebook. And the Republican Party threw everything in the kitchen sink at this guy. And the dude is nothing but a class act. And highly intelligent guy. Stands on principle all the time. And explains his votes. It's like, this is fantastic. And, he's getting elected in a state like Michigan, which, doesn't exactly like, your kind of limited government, / libertarian type candidates. I mean, there tend to be, your vote with unions and stuff like that. So, I mean, that kind of blew my mind. And it's one of those things. It's like, okay, well, maybe it does matter. So, I mean, that's an example of where I think voting actually does, because he ended up blowing away the Republican-backed guy. And, I mean, the Republicans were like, well, it was a good race. And it's like, no, it wasn't. You guys were awful to him, and he should, move to a different party. But, anywho, back to the whole lesser of two evils thing. I think to a point it's fine. Just to be, completely open and honest about it, even voting for governance is, government's kind of a necessary evil the way, the world is right now. So, I mean, even voting for somebody, and I mean, I hear anarchists make this, argument all the time. Well, voting for, if you say government's a necessary evil, that's saying that evil is necessary. And it's, yeah, okay, I guess. So, in a way, yeah, you're going to vote for the lesser of two evils. There's just no way around it. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's going to... Well,
let's just say the lesser of two evils in your mind, because in my opinion, it's the same thing. But go ahead.
If you get to the point where you're like, okay, am I going to drink poison A, which I believe will kill me, within 3 days, or poison B, which I believe will kill me within 6 days. If you get to that point, God help you, just walk away. I mean, if that's honestly where you're at and you're like, okay, well, I know this is going to kill me. I know this is going to be bad. I know it's not going to be good, but he's slightly better than the other guy. So I'm going to vote for him. That's terrible. That's a horrible, awful thing. You need to be able to look at a candidate and, be like, hey, well, I know you were with Gary Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
And
there were some other good ones too, by the way. It wasn't like I just liked him more than any of them.
Right. And, that's one of those. It's like, well, hey, I feel good about this vote because I agree with him on all this stuff, and the stuff I don't, it's a reasonable thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you morally have to sit there and say, well, okay, which one's least worst, you have a problem. Now, if there's a candidate, I don't care if it's Barack Obama. I mean, obviously he's not going to run again, but if that, say Hillary Clinton, she's announced, if that's your candidate and you honestly believe in her that she's the best thing and in your heart of hearts that that's great, you know what? That's fantastic. You're not voting for the lesser of two evils. It seems to be the Republicans that always get caught in that lesser of two evils thing.
You're exactly right.
And, I remember hearing on, it was the Glenn Beck show, I think. They were talking like whenever Romney first got it looked like he was going to get the nomination. They were actually like talking about selling shirts that like, well, at least he's not McCain, or like, at least he's not a communist. And it's like, wait a minute. It's like, I mean, they were kind of making fun of it, but at the same time, it's like, just even thinking this makes my brain hurt. Because that's not where we should be. I promised myself that I wasn't going to do that anymore afterwards. Because, I was like, okay, well, and here's my exact reasoning. I know me and you talked about this. Because you're like, dude, what the hell are you doing? You can't do that. And, I was like, well, here's my reasoning. Okay, you have one person who is going to, I felt, honestly, kind of basically jump us off the cliff as a society in general. I thought, well, okay, this other one will at least take a couple steps back. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be great, but at least it's a couple steps backwards. And I had convinced myself of that. And to tell you the truth, I knew I was lying to myself. I honestly did. But I went ahead and, bit the bullet and, pulled the R. And I instantly regretted it as soon as I turned it in. And more than a couple times sitting there after I'd marked it, I was like, you know what? I need to get a new ballot and just redo this whole damn thing.
You want to know what I did? I was like, Gary Johnson, check. And then as we were walking out, I told my wife, I'm like, all right, you ready for Obama to win?
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. So,
yeah.
I want to, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, I made myself a promise I wasn't going to do that. And from now on, no, I don't care who the candidate is. If I don't feel good, and I mean actually feel good, not have to convince myself that I feel good, I ain't doing it. If it gets to the point where I can't vote for any of them, I'll just sit my ass at home.
And that's what I'm going to start doing. I'm tired of it. I will get out and I will do whatever I can on local levels if there's something that's very important. But even state and national levels, I don't know that it even matters anymore, because I think it's just whatever's going to be done is going to be done anyway, really, in my opinion.
Like I said, it seems like no matter what they run on, hell, McCain was running as a maverick. I mean, good. And, then he gets in there, and now people who disagree with the Republican Party, well, they're going all half-cocked and out on their own. It's like, dude, what did you run on? And it's like, it doesn't mean anything to any of them. So
after talking about some of this stuff, that brings me to one point I wanted to touch on is you got Hillary running. You got all these other. I don't even remember because I'm not paying attention because I don't care. I'll just call them. You got a bunch of doofus characters running. They all say they're going to do one thing. They all say they're all about God and guns, and then the other ones will say we're all about equal rights. Blah 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 blah. Whatever. Why do people get behind candidates? We've got history repeating itself for the last however many years.
Every 4 years.
Yeah, and it's the same. It's been the same thing for 50, 60, 70 years. We just get the same thing over and over, no matter who gets elected. And I just think this is well, I'll get into that in a minute. So what's your thoughts on why people feel they need to get behind candidates and they treat them as like they're gods on these pedestals?
Literally, where they're passing out whenever some of them talk to them or something.
Yeah, they're the Beatles. They're the new Beatles.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's, I don't want to get real psychological because I'm really not that schooled in it, but it seems like everybody wants to stand for something, and everybody wants to be in the winning team. And, except for the libertarians, we're used to losing.
We're used to losing all the time.
Yeah. So it's easy for, libertarians to be like, oh, well, yeah, I'll stand on principle. I think a lot of people get caught up in celebrity and a cult of personality. There's certain buzzwords, and I think certain people hear them and they get excited, and like I said, it's almost like a mob mentality. You get caught up in this cult of personality. The media builds these people up to just unreal levels. People are easily swayed, and I hate to say this like this, but most people are flipping ignorant. And look at all those little man on the street quizzes that they always do now.
Mm-hmm.
And these people don't know anything. And it's like, I understand that 10 people in a segment isn't exactly a great survey.
Oh, I've heard questions on there that I didn't know, but I mean, it's like, what is a day of the week that starts with a W, and they don't know.
Well, the one that gets me though is when it's like, okay, well, who'd you vote for? I voted for Obama, or I voted for Bush. Okay, well, who's Dick Cheney? Well, isn't he a baseball player? And the one I heard was like, well, who's Joe Biden? And it's like, well, I think I had a teacher. It's like, yeah, the interviewer knows who your teachers were. I mean, it's stuff like that, and it's like, good God, people. And just the one recent one that really got me was, I say recent, it's been, what was it, like 08? I think the 08 campaign with Obama. And it was like, who are you here for today? Oh, I'm here for Obama. Why are you here? For my Obama cash. It's like, where are you going to get it? He's going to give me money. Where does he get it? His stash.
And the phones, the Obama phones.
Yeah, and it's like, these people honestly get caught up in believing like these politicians are going to give them cash.
I still think it's funny that they think they're going to change things. Like,
yeah, that too. Yeah, change you can believe in. Well, you didn't really change.
Oh, you can believe they're going to change. They're going to change what they said they weren't going to.
Exactly. As far as why people get caught up in it, I don't know. I voted for president the last time Bush ran. Like, his second term was the first time I could vote. And I never got caught up with any one candidate. The closest I got was honestly Ron Paul whenever he ran this last time against Obama, and he got primaried out and everything. But that was the closest I got. And even, I don't know, even Ron Paul kind of bugs me. I mean, I agree with 90% of what the dude, said and everything whenever he was in office. But, he wasn't exactly perfect either. But I never felt the urge to get, caught up in this and that. And I don't know if it's people just wanting to belong to something, wanting to be on the winning team, or if, they honestly believe what's happening. I thought it was funny. Hillary announced, and they're like, oh, the students are really excited. And they started asking the students, and most of them didn't even know who the crap she was.
That's pretty bad.
And I mean, it was stuff like that. And so I don't know. It's something that's always bugged me too. And, the Republicans are awful about it with Ronald Reagan. And it's always bugged the crap out of me. I am a huge Barry Goldwater fan. Like, his book, The Conscience of a Conservative, is absolutely fantastic. And he pushed for Reagan and this and that. Reagan doesn't deserve the cult of personality he has. If you listen to his speeches and stuff, then yeah, okay. But, the stuff he did, we mentioned earlier, wasn't exactly Reagan. It's like they have to have somebody to idolize. So I don't know. It's always kind of driven me nuts on both sides.
Okay, I'll close out my thoughts with this, and then I don't know if you've got anything else to add, but just to kind of, well, one thing I want to say is back to the no repeal thing that we were talking about earlier. I forgot to add this in, just to kind of show you what we're about. I did get on Facebook, and I said, anybody that's well-schooled in politics that wants to come on the show, because that's originally what we were going to do tonight, is have somebody come on that was from the no repeal side, so we could kind of have a debate and just show the world that you can have people who agree and disagree at the same time, and that are level-headed, that aren't going to threaten to kill each other and anything. Yep. And it was really sad, because I was looking forward to it. Nobody replied, not one person. And as adamant as people were on one side or the other, nobody replied from either side. And that in my opinion, that shows you the complete ignorance of society.
Oh yeah. I mean, I had friends who sat there and railed on Facebook against the vote. And it's like, well, hey, come on for an interview. And they went silent.
Mm-hmm.
Or they completely ignored my comment and just kept talking. It's like, no, seriously, let's sit down. We'll have a conversation. The whole podcast will be yours. We're not going to do an ambush. We'll sit here and talk about it. I didn't even go to the point with well versed. I just asked if anybody wanted to come on the show. And I couldn't get anybody. I mean, I went on friends' timelines, tried to hijack the timeline,
Yeah.
to try to get somebody interested, whether they were in the area or not. And I had a couple people who were in the area, had voted against it, and seemed, fairly intelligent, and, had comments, about it. And it's like, well, why don't you come on the show and we'll go into it? And I mean, just dead silence. I don't even think the crickets were chirping.
All right. So I say all that to say this. This has happened to me more than once. Somebody will say, I'll make a post about it doesn't matter who you vote for. It's all kind of going downhill anyways. And, we've talked about how society is on the fringe of, dropping off the cliff. Does any of this even matter anymore other than just your local things that are going to affect you? Does anything else on a worldly or nationwide thing, does it even matter? I mean, because I'll be honest, the further I get into this, the less I care. I care more about the short time I'm on this earth, trying to at least live a happy life and do some stuff I want to do, than to get wrapped up into all this garbage and sit there and argue with people all day. What do you think?
No, I'm with you. I got really bad and obsessed there for a little while. I mean, it was constantly politics all the time.
Me too. I'm guilty of it also.
I found myself at a baseball game. I should be enjoying myself, nice weather, great game. And the only thing I could think of was how I was going to argue with this dude about some stupid political thing that, the grand scheme doesn't mean jack.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's like a slap in the face. It's like, dude, you're at a baseball game with your wife. You have a brat in your hand. Why the crap are you even worried about this? I was kind of like, oh, wow, and I had to step away from it for a while. And I've kind of started getting back into it now. I like to debate just because I like to argue. But I do it now more for just, sideshow fun than anything else. But I'm kind of like you. The more I get into it now, the more I research and study and everything, everybody shouts at each other and not a single thing changes. You're not going to change anybody's mind, it seems, anymore. And like you said, a lot of the elections and stuff, if they're not local, it doesn't really matter much. And I found myself, it's like, you know what? I need to go mow my yard and listen to some tunes.
Yeah, exactly.
And, I find myself doing that, and I don't know, maybe I'm finally understanding the whole render unto Caesar thing, because I almost don't care.
I don't. I mean, like I said, I don't care. And it's to the point where even if you had like a really awesome libertarian candidate, I don't know that I'd care to go even vote anymore, because I just know it's not going to matter. It's my civic duty as an American. Yeah, well, whatever,
Yeah, I'll probably, I'll go vote just because, it's fun. But I kind of enjoy stuff like that. But as far as, a whole lot of other stuff, I don't know. Voting even seems at times, I didn't even bother going and voting this last time, just because it was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I'll probably go vote, but I doubt I get real excited about it. Like I said, I'm curious how Rand Paul is going to run. He has done some rather interesting things in the Senate that I think are actually really good ideas. So if he actually manages to not run a stupid campaign, we'll see how that works out. But I think the Republican Party will kill him. But figuratively speaking, of course.
I think they're all just going to kill each other. I mean, you see the way they treat each other instead of like coming at, hey, I agree with you on this, maybe not on this. No, it's just a big fight basically to see who can be the number one guy that's going to win, because he's not Obama or he's not a woman, with Hillary. So I don't know. It's all just a giant waste of time to me anymore.
Yeah. Well, and see, honestly, I think that's what got Ron Paul was he didn't go after the throats of the other candidates.
That's because he's more focused on the issues, which is what everyone should be.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. So I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see how they do. If they all run the negative campaign ads and everything like they have been in the past while, I may not vote for any of them. I may just sit my ass home and, not worry about it.
One other thing I want to say is, we were talking about how bad society is, but here's the thing. I'd rather sit and have a discussion with somebody, maybe not to change their mind on something, but to maybe just have them see a different point of view, whether it's politics, whether it's how to save money, whether it's learning a skill, whatever it is. I do have more faith in being able to teach somebody something or learn something from somebody else in a conversation or an activity like that than I do to just waste time with politics. Do you get what I'm saying?
Oh, no, I completely understand. I love having a discussion with people because you're always going to learn something. Everybody comes from a different, kind of background, ideology, and all this and that. Even though, I may completely disagree with somebody, learning where they come from, it's always interesting. And a lot of times they'll believe something because they haven't been exposed to something else, except in shout form.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you look at your TV talk shows, all they do is sit there, yell at each other, and talk over each other. It's like, that's not a conversation. Sit down and chat. I'd like to invite anybody to come on here that's listening. If they want to chat about something, we'll sit down and chat. I don't care if you're a communist, anarchist, socialist, whatever you are. By God, we'll sit down and have a conversation. We'll talk, we'll listen. We'll can't physically shake hands because we won't be in the same room, but by golly, we'll, metaphorically shake hands and move on with life, and enjoy the experience and feel richer for it. Yeah, I am all about, having a good conversation with somebody, and that's what it needs to be. So,
do you have anything else you want to throw out there on politics? I just have one more thing to close out the show, but I'll let you have the floor if you got something else.
We've kind of talked down on politics, but I don't necessarily want to say politics because then you start thinking parties and this and that. Current events are kind of important to stay up on, but be careful with your sources. Your TV, like your media sources and everything, because everybody's got a bias. I don't care who they are, where they are, whatever. Everybody's got a bias that'll be, subconsciously in it. And TV always goes for what's glorified. It's, if it bleeds, it leads. And, stay up on current events because it does matter. You got to think, government is in your life in almost every single aspect in ways that you can't even imagine. From, how your toilet flushes and how your shower head lets water out to, the food on your table. Government is in your life in every single facet. So, it's important to keep up on it. And, if you feel that, impassioned about something, that's great. But don't let it control your life, but still try to keep up. It's a happy medium, but I think, it's worth trying to do.
Yeah, I'll just close by saying, I don't think there's anything you can change with government ever. No matter if you're led to that illusion, I just don't believe so. I think, as long as there's lobbyists and big banks involved that control the world, none of this is ever going to change. So I just would recommend maybe trying to change people. Just even one individual, have this conversation about anything, about life. Just talk to them about something and kind of steer away from the hatred that gets bred by politics and parties and gay and race and all this stuff. Just throw all that stuff away and just try to, learn something for once. Anything else?
Well, just kind of a nice little, Nito, you said banks and this and that, and I agree with you. I'm not a fan of central banking system and all that, and we can, chat about that sometime if you like. Maybe you are a fan of the fiat system. That's great. But anywho, Rand Paul is actually the first candidate to ever accept Bitcoin donations.
Nice.
So, that's a big nod to the libertarians who are all about that, the Bitcoin and this and that. So, like I said, it could be interesting. I hated that he came out for McConnell. That kind of made me ill, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, I thought I'd throw that out there, talking about the banks and this and that. And he also supports the nod at the Fed.
There you go.
So
Maybe we can have down the road another discussion about, like you said, the banking systems and the Fed and everything. I think that'd be awesome. So
Yeah, it's actually kind of scary and
no,
frightening.
that's exactly what I was thinking. It's pretty scary. People don't understand it, but another show for another day. Like we both said, if you want to come on the show and talk to us about the central banking system, or if you want to talk about politics, or you want to talk about bug out bags, whatever it is you want to talk about, we'll talk about it. You can send us an email at edpreparedness@gmail.com. You can hit us up on Twitter with a tweet, or if we're following you, a direct message at edprepare. Facebook.com/edprepare. That's probably our biggest following right there. And then we've got YouTube page, which hopefully we can get some more product reviews on, but you can also check out all our podcasts there. So until next time, see you guys later.
Peace.